Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you've watched the previous episode, in the last episode the story stopped at a moment that made anyone watching fall into deep silence. Hai, someone who has always been strong and decisive in everything, found himself facing the most difficult situation of his life when he realized that he was the only one who could donate part of his liver to save his biological father. A man who, for more than 30 years, had never truly existed in his memory as a real father. A man who once abandoned him and his mother, leaving behind not only absence, but also wounds that quietly lingered through the years. Meanwhile, that man, Hai's father, now no longer had much time left. He did not beg to live at all costs, nor did he use any reason to force his son. The only thing he wished for was that before he left, he could receive forgiveness. Just one word for him, that would be enough. But that very wish only made Hai feel even more torn inside. Moving into the new episode, the days that followed were anything but easy. There were no major changes on the outside. Yet inside Hai, a storm continued to rise without ever settling. Everything around him still moved as usual, but for him time seemed to slow down. Every passing moment carried a heavy, suffocating weight. He barely spoke to anyone, not because he didn't want to, but because he didn't know what to say. The thoughts in his mind kept overlapping without pause. There were moments when he wanted to speak, but stopped himself. Moments when he wanted to share, yet felt that no one could fully understand what he was going through. In his mind, there was only one question repeating over and over again. Should I save him? A question that seemed simple, yet held all the deepest conflicts within Hai. On one side was the memory of more than 30 years. The years of growing up without a father's presence. The pain that he and his mother had silently endured. The hardest moments when no one was there. The emotions he once tried to bury, tried to forget, now returning one by one, painfully clear. On the other side was a human life. And not just anyone, but the man who gave him life. No matter how much he tried to deny it, no matter how hard he tried to separate his feelings, that truth could not be changed. Blood ties are not something that can be cut off by reason alone. And because of that, Hai fell into a state that even he himself could not escape. He returned home in prolonged exhaustion. Not physical fatigue, but a deep mental drain. His steps were slower than usual, his eyes no longer sharp and decisive as before. Instead, there was a heaviness, as if he were carrying an invisible burden on his shoulders. Tiểu San saw everything. She didn't need Hai to say anything. Just by looking into his eyes, by the way he remained silent, she understood. But she didn't rush to ask, didn't force him to answer, didn't make him face things he wasn't ready to say yet. She chose to stay beside him, in a very gentle way, but enough for him to feel. Being there when he was silent without trying to break that silence. Being there when he didn't know what to say, without forcing him to find answers right away. Sometimes it was just sitting together in a quiet space. No words, no long comforting sentences. Yet it made everything feel a little easier to breathe. Tiểu San understood that there are emotions that cannot be resolved with words immediately. Some pain needs time to be understood on its own. And so she was patient. She gently shared her thoughts with Hai, little by little, without pressure, without imposing anything. Not to make decisions for him, but to help him see things from another perspective. Not to erase the past, but to help him understand that no matter how painful the past is, it doesn't have to determine every choice in the present. Her words were not grand, not theoretical, just simple thoughts. Yet they reached exactly where Hai felt the most conflicted. She didn't say that he had to forgive, nor did she say he should forget everything. She only gently suggested that if he set aside the titles of father and son, then in front of him now, there was simply a human being standing at the line between life and death. And if it were a stranger, what would he choose? That question did not force Hai to answer immediately. but it made him think. Think in a different way, calmer, less controlled by emotion. And from that moment, the knots in his heart seemed to begin shifting, even if only slightly. Not an immediate change, but a sign that he was slowly starting to face himself. Tieu San didn't force him to forgive. She didn't use heavy words, nor did she place any pressure on him about what was right or wrong, because she understood that there are things that cannot be changed by just a piece of advice. There are emotions that have existed for too long, deeply rooted in memory, that cannot simply disappear overnight. She only said one sentence, a very gentle sentence, yet enough to make the listener pause. If you can't see him as your father yet, then see him as a stranger who needs to be saved. That sentence was not loud, not strongly persuasive, but it touched exactly the deepest place in Hai's thoughts. He fell silent, not because he had never thought of it, but because he had never dared to see things that way. Until now, in his mind, everything had always been bound by the word father. That very relationship made every emotion complicated. It made resentment inseparable from blood ties. It made him, even when he wanted to be decisive, unable to truly do so. But Tieu San's words opened up another direction, a simpler way of seeing things, with fewer ties, with less inner conflict. Tieu San continued, not rushing, not overwhelming, just gently, word by word, as if afraid that if she spoke too quickly, everything would become heavy again. If it were someone else, someone unrelated to you, but you could save them, what would you do? That question did not demand an immediate answer, but it made Hai unable to stop thinking. It wasn't about forgiveness, not about acceptance, not about forgetting everything that had happened. It was simply about saving a life, an action completely separate from the past, a choice not bound by the wounds that once existed, and that made Hai feel that something inside him was beginning to change. Not an immediate relief, but a space where old thoughts no longer filled everything. Meanwhile, Tieu San and Mrs. Thoa took turns going to the hospital to care for Hai's father. No one said it out loud, but both understood what they were doing was not for the past but for the present. Even though the wounds were still there, even though old memories sometimes still caused pain, in front of a person standing on the edge of life and death, they could not turn away. Mrs. Thoa maintained her usual calm, but in her eyes, there was no longer the same firmness as before. Tieu San was even quieter. She didn't say much, just silently took care of things, letting everything happen as gently as possible. No one mentioned the past. No one brought up what had happened. Only the present existed clearly. And that silence made the atmosphere deeper than ever. That night, Hai didn't sleep. The room was dark, with only faint light coming in from outside. The space was so quiet that even each breath could be heard. He sat alone. No phone. Nothing to distract his thoughts. Just him, and the memories slowly returning. Each image, each moment being pulled back. The difficult days. The simple meals. The times his mother silently endured, without complaining, without blaming, just quietly carrying everything. The moments when he had to grow up on his own, to understand life earlier than other children. All of it, as clear as if it had just happened. The emotions he had tried to suppress could no longer be held back. But then, amid those memories, another image began to appear. Not the past, but the present. His father's eyes lying on the hospital bed, no longer strong, no longer the image of someone who once had everything, only a man growing weaker day by day, eyes filled with regret, without needing to say anything. Anyone could understand, and above all a sense of waiting for something that even he himself wasn't sure he would receive. Hai looked at everything again, and for the first time, he wasn't looking only through resentment, but through silence of someone who was truly thinking. The next morning, after a long sleepless night, After all the tangled thoughts and the memories interwoven between past and present, Hai finally made his decision. It was not an impulsive choice, nor was it something decided in a fleeting moment of emotion, but the result of a long inner struggle, carried out in silence. He agreed to donate part of his liver, a short sentence, yet carrying so many things that could not be put into words. Not because he had forgiven. What happened in the past could not be erased by a single decision. Those wounds were still there, still existed, still a part of who he was. Not because of money or assets. What his father had offered was not what changed his mind. To Hai, this decision had nothing to do with any form of exchange. But simply, he did not want to watch a person die in front of him when he had the ability to save them. A very simple thought, yet enough to help him overcome all the barriers inside himself. And also because, no matter what, that was still the man who gave him life. A truth he could deny with words but could never change deep within. That decision was spoken quietly, but it made the atmosphere seem to pause. No one said anything more. Only silence, but a silence marking a turning point. The surgery was quickly arranged. Everything moved at a pace that no one could emotionally prepare for. The preparations, the discussions with doctors, the papers that needed signing. Everything followed one after another without pause. The atmosphere in the hospital became suffocatingly tense. No more small conversations. No more familiar sounds. Only waiting, stretching through every minute, every second. Tiểu San and Mrs. Thoa stood outside the operating room. Neither of them spoke, but their hands were tightly clasped together, as a way to steady themselves, as a way to give each other strength, while inside both were filled with worry. The light above the operating room remained on. Time passed so slowly that it felt as if everything had stopped. Each minute felt like hours. No one knew exactly what was happening behind that door. No one could do anything except wait. Then, after what felt like an endless stretch of time, the operating room door opened. That moment made the entire space freeze. The doctor stepped out. His expression calm, with a slight smile on his lips. A smile not too obvious, but enough for those waiting to understand everything. The surgery was successful. A simple, clear sentence. Yet enough to release all the emotions that had been held back. Both Hai and his father had made it through the danger. There were no overwhelming reactions. No bursts of tears. Just a quiet sense of relief, spreading in silence. As if they had all just crossed a boundary that, before that moment, no one was certain they could overcome. In the days that followed, everything gradually returned to a slower rhythm. Both Hai and his father began to recover. Not quickly but steadily. Each passing day was a small step forward. Tiểu San and Mrs. Thoa stayed by their side, never leaving. They took turns caring for them, watching even the smallest changes. Simple actions, yet filled with deep concern. No one said it aloud, but everyone understood. This period was not only about physical recovery, but also a very special stage of emotions. The atmosphere was no longer as tense as before. No longer filled with the urgent anxiety of waiting outside the operating room. Everything became quieter, lighter, but there was still a distance that could not be seen, yet could be felt by everyone. Not complete unfamiliarity, but not yet closeness. A silent space, existing between two people who shared the same blood, yet had not truly faced each other. Hai's father looked at his son many times. His gaze was no longer the same. No longer the exhaustion of a man standing at the edge of life and death, but something different, deeper, carrying more within it. As if he wanted to say something, wanted to begin a conversation, wanted to open something that had been left unfinished for so many years. But then, he remained silent. Not because there was nothing to say, but because he didn't know where to begin, and wasn't sure if he even had the right to. That silence was no longer as heavy as before. But it made it even clearer that between them, there were still so many things left unspoken. Even though he had made his decision, even though he had crossed the line between life and death to save that man, deep inside, there were still things that could not change after just one event. He was still there. Still the same person shaped by all those past years. Still the one who grew up with incomplete memories. His choice to save a life did not mean that all old emotions would instantly disappear. Saving someone does not mean forgetting. Saving someone does not mean restoring a broken relationship. Inside Hai, everything was still there. He did not avoid it, but he could not fully face it either. There were moments when he stood very close, yet still felt an invisible distance between them. A distance not created by anyone but by everything that had happened before. He looked at the man slowly recovering in front of him, calmly, no longer with the sharpness of before, but without closeness either. Just a gaze filled with thoughts that could not easily be put into words. Even though he had saved him, deep down he still could not call him father. That word might be simple for others, but for him it was something he could not say naturally. Not because he was stubborn, not because he didn't understand, but because some emotions need time. Some things cannot be rushed. After everything that had happened, what he had just gone through was only one step, a very big step, but not everything. The question still remained, not only in his heart, but also in the minds of those following this story. Could Hai truly forgive? Not forgiveness spoken in words, but a real release within his heart. Could he look at that man, not through old memories, but from a different perspective, one calm enough not to be controlled by the past? And then, would he accept this father? Not just accepting his existence, but accepting a relationship that had been lost for so many years? A relationship that, if restarted, would not be easy at all. And besides that, there was something else. Something that could not be separated from this story. The assets that man left behind. Not simply material wealth, but the symbol of a lifetime he had built. Would Hai choose to accept it? Or would he refuse as a way to keep his distance? Or would everything stop at this act of saving? A human act, nothing more, nothing less. No attachment, no continuation. Just a decision, and then each person walking their own path. Those questions still had no answers. And perhaps it is those unspoken things that are the most important part of this story. Will everything gradually change, or remain as it is? Will that distance be shortened, or will it remain forever? What will happen next? Stay tuned for the next part to find out.
Xin chào mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến với mọi người video về câu chuyện của Tiểu San và Hải nha mọi người. Trong video hôm nay thì mình đưa đến phần tiếp theo trong cái hành trình Tiểu San và Hải trong hành trình Hải tìm lại bố mẹ mọi người. Bây giờ thì mình vẫn đang trong quá trình làm thôi, còn cũng chưa có xong á. Bây giờ mình hy vọng rằng mọi người sẽ theo dõi và ủng hộ cho kênh mình nhiều hơn nữa để mình có động lực để ra video đều nha. Cảm ơn mọi người rất nhiều. Hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong những video tiếp theo. Bye bye.